Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to what I think is going to be a very special series of events held by Australia One. The first of which is happening here this morning in Melbourne, Victoria. Victorians. My God. I just want to say, folks, you've been through hell. I had no idea. None of us do who didn't live through it. We think we did. We had our own little bit of lockdown in Queensland and New South Wales and other places, but we have not been through what you've been through. First of all, give yourselves a round of applause for surviving what you've been through. There's a lot of strange things that happen in the movement, in the world at the moment. Today, the leader of Australia One, I won't say leader, just the bloke who stands at the head, is going to give you a very interesting and I hope very informative presentation. Today, just so you know, folks, is the first of 3 presentations. So today's presentation in Melbourne will link to Wednesday night's presentation in Canberra, which will in turn link to Friday night's presentation in Sydney. So today, if you like, is the first step. And Rick will take you through those steps a little later on. Now, we know, folks, you've been through hell. We know, well, you tell us, are you sick and tired of what's going on? Yes. I know there's a lot of frustration. You want things to happen now, and we all want them to happen now. God knows we've all waited long enough. You folks have been through it more hard than anybody else in Australia, except maybe now for the West Australians who have got a whole heap of crap they've got to deal with, and we'll get into that a little bit later on this morning. So we understand the frustrations, folks, and I'm sure Rick will speak to those today. But first and foremost, I would urge you and your frustration to rein in a bit. There's been a lot of talk about, you know, we've got to fight back, we've got to pick up our guns, we've got to go and take it to them. I wouldn't counsel that in any way, shape or form. You don't have enough guns, you don't have enough good guns, and you do not have enough ammunition. The rest of the nation would love to come and support you, but all you're going to do is get people killed. Innocent people killed. Patience, patience, patience. I have none like you. But I think that's what God wants us to develop. We have to develop patience. We have to develop patience, and we have to keep our eyes open. There are so many people, I mean, our whole room here says we're awake. I'm sure we all think we're awake, and we are. We're all reading the same book, but every one of us is on a different page. So that's why we feel like family when we come together, because we are reading the same book. But today is information from Rick, but it's also information from you. These people that you don't know here, before you leave today, shake their hands, introduce yourself. Make sure you develop a relationship with the people here, because the people here are the ones who are going to fight for you, all right? Rick and I can do what we do, but at the end of the day, you're the ones on the streets, and this is your friend group, okay? It's much bigger than this. This is just all we could get into this room this time. There'll be another bunch of you here tonight. They'll get the same speech and more over the coming days. It's imperative that we band together, that we join together, and that we have patience. There is great things happening. Whether you're awake enough to see them or not is a different matter. And that depends on your level of wakeness. And I'll let Rick get to, well, some interesting news that's happened overnight to break that up. So without further ado, because I know you didn't come to hear me prattle on, I would very proudly like to introduce you to the gentleman that we hope will stand and lead this country forward into something better in the very, very near future. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please put your hands together for Mr. Ricardo Bosey.
Well, thanks very much. I'm done. See you later. I better stay then. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. Obviously, you had nothing else to do today. Yeah, nothing unimportant, that's for sure. This war for the world that I spoke about a year ago, do you remember that video? The war for the world is reaching its final stages. We are close. We are so close. A year ago, I asked you to get through to Christmas. You did that. And then I said, watch out what's going to happen over the next few months. And I said, bit by bit by bit, the story will come out. And what's happened? The story has started coming out. News stories that we wouldn't have heard a year ago are now starting to come out. We are winning. We are so close. And just speaking to Carl's point, patience. There's two reasons why we need it. One, because we are so close. If any of us were to do anything precipitous, it would give the powers that be the plausible reason to take draconian measures, lock us down. So we don't. We stay calm. We stay in control. The second reason why this is important is because patience, and Carl mentioned it. George Washington, leader of the colonists in the American Revolutionary War, he led his country to victory against the greatest superpower at the time, Great Britain. And these weren't trained soldiers, they were just ne'er-do-wells and farmers and cobblers with their own muskets. Bloody feet, tromping through the snow, fighting for their country. Washington led these men into victory, and he said, the first requisite of leadership is patience. You need a lot of skills, there's no doubt about that, but patience, patience, patience. Because you've got to bring people with you. Now that's important for you because you are the leadership that will lead this country. That's how this organization is set up. Every one of you, whether you know it or not, whether you want to or not, will have the responsibility to lead the rest of the nation because there's 26.59 million of us out there that may not be ready to go. You know what's coming. Most of them have no idea. Absolutely none. Your leadership, your skill, your patience is what's going to move Australia from where it is to where it needs to be. And we have to bring everybody with us, as many as possible. Now, there are 7 deadly sins in the Bible, and I've probably been guilty of all of them, some of them several times. But there's an 8th one, and that's that impatience, because like you, I've had a gutful. I've had enough. I wake up in the morning, I look in the mirror, and I give it a mouthful. And that's okay. Have your quiet spit, and then get back to work like all of us. That's normal. But you must, every one of you, you must. Keep your powder dry and wait. We are so close. Now, I've said before, it's not our job to storm Parliament House. That's somebody else, and they're doing a bloody good job of it. Our job is to rebuild the nation, and this is going to be long and difficult. But that's what we have to do. We'll be rebuilding the nation. If you want a little insight into maybe how good things are now going, you know how you've seen a few low-level people being arrested? Well, I think it was the number 2 man in China. And for those of you, and be aware that we are live streaming this, and this is going to be recorded. And this talk is actually not just for Melbourne. It's not just for Victoria. It's not just for Australia. This is for the world. Because when Australia One speaks, they listen. We have supporters. In fact, we, the A1 family, are better known overseas than we are in Australia. From the Philippines to Vietnam, to Ireland, to Italy, to Poland, Serbia, everywhere. Where else? Canada, big fans in Canada. So we are talking to them as well. We are so close. And so when the number 2 man in China is frog marched from the podium during a conference, what does that tell you? Give that woman a chocolate frog. So this isn't a matter of trusting the plan. You've got to trust yourself, point 1. Point 2, watch what's going on and you'll know the plan is in operation and it's working, okay? So we are okay. Now, let's kick off. As Carl said, this is part 1. This presentation was supposed to be parts 1, 2, and 3 all in one gig. By the time we spread it out, it was too much. Because again, this isn't just for you because you're awake. But a lot of people are going to be watching this and they are going to have to very slowly absorb a lot of very unpalatable information. Most of them will turn away and say, this can't be true. And that only speaks to their good heart, because they cannot conceive of the evil which we know is going on. So it's in 3 parts. So after this, please watch the Tuesday gig in Canberra. That's going to be part 2. And then the Sydney gig on Thursday, that's part 3. And that'll give you the whole ball of wax. Okay? So this is just part 1. Now, I'll do the talk. We'll talk about a few things, and then I want to spend a lot of time with the Q&A, so you get to ask questions directly of me and get an answer. Okay? So here today, presentation, Q&A, and then go. And as Carl said, please introduce yourself to your friends and family. And I mean, this is the new family. Because like me, you've probably lost brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, kids, grandkids. Same here. That's okay. That's life. That's life. Okay, shall we start? Rightio. Now, remember, as I said, this is for a lot of people who may not be awake. So if I speak to you and you think, well, I already know that, that's okay. Be patient, because somebody else is hearing it for the first time. Let them catch up. And here's the thing, the smarter you get, the more experienced you get. Have you noticed how you've got to trawl through more tonnage of rock before you get the little nuggets? Okay, but that one nugget is worth it. So if I'm trawling through lots of ore, wait for the little nugget that'll pop out, because that's all you need. Does that make sense? Because other people will be going, this is amazing, this is amazing, this is amazing. And you'll be yawning, wanting catch up. Wait till you get to page 63. That's really exciting. To use Carl's analogy of the book. Okay, let's go. Let's not go.
Which is the laptop presentation.
Nothing like a mistake to start.
Oh, well, it's my signature.
Just forgive me while I get my reluctant laptop. It won't surprise you that we get all manner of interference during our communications, courtesy of, yeah, I'm shocked, me too, courtesy of ASIO, who allegedly claim that 40% of their time is spent on right-wing extremists. Really? They can't find pedophile judges. They can't find traitorous politicians. They can't find drug syndicates that operate a global corporation. But apparently, those people who wish to look after their family are right-wing extremists. That's ASIO. They're more interested in the manufacture of crime than the removal of it. Come on. Come on. Okay, first things first. Nope, doesn't want to play. This is for those who are new to this game. Don't ask us how we knew. Ask yourself why you didn't. So as they turn on you, and they will, and don't expect an apology, please. All right, we withstood the social opprobrium, that pushback, that neglect from the main stream of people and media, and we stood our ground. Now, standing against the crowd is a challenge. Thanks, mate. Is a challenging thing to do, because being the tall poppy is not an easy thing. At least in Australia, we have a name for it. This is why we are here, folks. What's your name? Is it working? Great, thank you. A lot of people are going to turn on you. As somebody yelled at me in Canberra during that many months we were up in Canberra, somebody came up, and I understood his frustration. He said, why didn't you do this back in 2010 or 2012? And I just said, well, I was in Afghanistan at the time, sorry. What I didn't say, and I had every right to say, but again, these people are in pain, is, why didn't you? I'm just a guy. Nothing special about me. The only special thing is I'm too stupid to keep my mouth shut, maybe. So, ask themselves, now, if we get this right as a nation, this will never happen again. We have to trust ourselves. We have to think for ourselves. We have to act for ourselves. And that's why, again, A1 is all about you taking the organisation and running with it. Makes sense? We set up a framework. You make it happen. We have to save ourselves. Now, I'm going to go through some history that we know about, things that have gone wrong, things that happened. Some will be new, some won't be. So let's go.
Control immigration, full-term abortion, African crime, suspect political donations, family court suicides, the globalist influence, failed water management, vote fraud, settling fraud, and the list goes on and on. Did you vote for any of this? Australia's current future looks bleak, and there are other futures that look worse, and we need to change our trajectory. You see, we're under attack from foreign powers and ideologies, and that's bad enough. But they're being aided and abetted by traitors in our parliaments and our public service, compromised judges in our courts, ineffectual police running our constabularies, cowards leading our military, ideological enemies in our universities, and propagandists in our media. I say our because it is you, the Australian people, who pay for or subsidise these institutions. These organs of state have been corrupted to the point where they no longer serve Australia, but themselves, foreigners, and other special interests. The forces arrayed against us are titanic, and we are losing this battle because most Australians just can't see the threat, and those who do see it and speak out are severely outnumbered, maligned, defamed, and even silenced. Every generation has a role to defend what is good and to defeat that which threatens it. And like every generation, we will never face a more important responsibility. We must save Australia. We must ensure Australia remains a sovereign, self-reliant Judeo-Christian Western democracy, which is economically powerful, militarily intimidating, politically free, culturally vibrant, and socially cohesive. To do this, our nation needs decent men and women who are willing to commit everything to a cause greater than themselves. We need to build an army ready to fight for our best future, an army ready to fight from local councils through to state and federal parliaments. Your voice is necessary. You don't have to be a parliamentarian, but you must fight for your family, your local community, and your nation. Now is the time to step up and rise to this challenge. If you know the difference between right and wrong, if you know what you're willing to fight for, and if you truly have the courage of your convictions, Australia One is your party. Join us.
As we've said from the very beginning, this is not about getting elected. Why aren't you registered yet? We've told you 100 times. This is not about getting elected. This is a 75 to 100-year program. Our adversaries think in terms of centuries, so must we. Our adversaries have sophisticated plans exquisitely executed, so must we. So this is not about the Victorian state election, which is coming up shortly, which we will fight and fight hard. And I'll be back down here with every of the independent candidates that A1 has vetted. You notice I didn't say A1 candidates. They're not. They are independent candidates, utterly independent, but we've vetted them and said, here's a set of policies and here's a set of behaviours. If you sign up to this, we'll give you a thumbs up and help you. But you have to win your election. This is about saving Australia. Now, have you heard it before? What is our intention? Intention comprises three parts: purpose, method, end state. Our purpose is to save Australia, not get elected. It's a big difference. One is an end and one is a means to an end. Does that make sense? When we first kicked this off, I got a lot of phone calls from a lot of people saying, you need to know what I know because I've been in politics for 30 years. To which I politely replied, if you've been in politics for 30 years, mate, you're the problem. This is about saving the country. So everything we do must work through that prism. The second part of this intention is method, but let's leave method last because method reveals itself once we have analysed all the factors, all the considerations. So what's our end state? What are we arguing? What are we targeting? Now, we might be wrong. I might be a complete loon. And Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton might be the gods that'll save the country. Strangely, I don't think that's the case. But all we're doing is putting together a vision. And if you like the vision, join us. If you don't, make your own. We get a lot of people say, you know what, I like 90% of what A1 does, but you know, I just don't like those things over there. Great, it's okay. Away you go. We have a very clear idea. Now, the good news is I was born in 1960, so I've been around the block a few times. The Australia in which I grew up as a son of migrants who arrived 9 years earlier has long gone. Long gone. In those days, she'll be right, mate, meant I'll take the hit, she'll be right, because when the hit stops, I can get going. Now it means something very less. It means we don't care. So, having been raised in that country, which no longer exists, I hate to tell you, it's not like we're on the edge. It's not like we're falling. We have fallen. We're done. And there's plenty of evidence for it, and we'll go through that shortly. We are done. They are so close to winning. Good news is we're closer to winning because we're going to get them first. So the end state that we would like to see is this. Australia is a moral, sovereign, self-reliant Christian Western democracy, which is economically powerful, militarily intimidating, politically free, culturally vibrant, and socially cohesive. I can't see anything wrong with that. Anybody that's been on the planet more than 10 minutes knows they're all pretty smart things to be. Because we used to be some of that, but in the future, 3, 5, 10 years from now, we'll be all of that. And please press me, and I mean this, press me on something where you have a problem. Oh, military intimidating sounds scary, mate. Really? Really? Let's compare notes. And let's have the argument. This is the marketplace of ideas where you get to speak freely and say, I think you're wrong. I say, great, prove it to me. And if you're right and I'm wrong, I'll change. But that's what we want to create. How are we going to get there? And here's the tough bit. And again, I know you may have heard this, but people around the world may not have. And this is a war for the world. Our method is the most difficult way of doing it. There isn't a hard one out there. We will create a moral political party, and press me on what moral is too. Press me on it. Ask me for a definition, because I've got one. Have they? I doubt it. I don't think they can read. At least I've mastered joined up writing. A moral party, which will assist every Australian to reach their highest individual potential. So collectively, we can all participate in the reformation of Australia. Because that's what this is. We are reforming the country. Now, that doesn't mean we're all clones. This is predicated on your sovereign rights. And there's another word. The one word that I get the most blank looks from is when I look at somebody in the eye and say, you are a sovereign being. And they look at me and go, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I've heard this story before, but I was doing a gig up in Central Coast near Newcastle at an RSL there, not dissimilar to this. And the barmaid had one ear as she's pouring the beers. And she came up to me after and she said, but I'm just a barmaid. I said, no, love, you are a sovereign being. All political power derives from you. Whew. Not her fault. Never got taught. Once we as Australians, each individual understands that we are sovereign beings, that we don't follow orders just because some idiot in a suit in Parliament House says we have to do something, and we say, no, Dan, no, we don't. Go away. And when you have what we want, which is recall elections, you can sack the guy immediately. That's sovereign power. That's what it means to be sovereign. It's in your hands. Now, this is going to be messy, don't get me wrong. This is going to be really messy because we'll have, like we had when I was talking to Southeast Queensland, are you going to legalise marijuana? Well, we're in favour of CBD and THC oil for medicinal purposes, no problem. Hemp for clothing, for building materials, for food, no problem at all. If you even want to have a couple of plants in your back garden, that's your business. I don't care. But if you start commercialising it and selling it to kids, our anti-drug policy will make Thailand look like a drug pusher's paradise. You start hurting our kids, I get really, really doughy really quickly. And these guys got cranky. Oh, we love day one, but you don't like dope smokers. I said, no, I don't. We got a lot more to worry about. And by the way, who wants you smoking dope and taking drugs? China. Why? It's the opium war 2.0. And for those of you, I know you probably know what I'm talking about, but the kids out there from maybe 2-3 generations that haven't actually studied history don't even know what the opium war was. But they want us spaced out of our minds so they can take over, just like they've done in the US with the opioid epidemic. So they would rather smoke dope and not worry about kids being killed at the point of birth. Those people are free to have that opinion. They really are. I have no problem with that. But we don't want them in A1. They're the wrong sort of people. These people are not there to build a nation. Make sense? So purpose, method, end state. Moral political party. You are the leaders that will reform this country. Whether it's because you homeschool, whether it's because you run a small business, whether it's because you run a big business and how you do it. And the economic freedom you will have to do exactly what you want, the way you want to do it. And it's going to scare a lot of people. Let me give you a little insight, just one policy. And we'll talk policies in the next session. This is part one. But the one that excites people a lot, apart from the COVID stuff, was right in your face, is the 2% expenditure tax. Just show of hands, who has heard about the 2% expenditure tax? Brilliant. Imagine being able to keep every cent you ever make. I remember when I got my first paycheck, I was a dispatch boy at an advertising agency running messages. And I looked at the packet and I went, wow, I'm rich. And then I saw the tax come out and I went, not so much. But that is your money. You get to keep it. Because your money, as you know, and people out there might not, has been funneling deep state. It has funded the dumbs. It has funded child sex trafficking. It has funded the adrenochrome. It has funded everything bad on this planet. But you get to keep your money now. You're going to be richer than Croesus. Croesus was the guy that touched everything and turned it into gold. You're going to be contacting an accountant, for those of you who might not have ever had an accountant, because you're going to walk in with this bag of gold, and it will be literally gold because we're going to have a gold-backed dollar, and say, find something to get this to work, please, because I've got room in the house for all my money now. This will explode the Australian economy. It's currently a $1 trillion economy. It'll double and treble and take off. Freedom, real freedom, little things like that. This is your sovereign right. You don't have to pay tax unless you agree. As a political community, we agree together to do something, we vote on it, and then we do it. You can't opt out just because I don't want to pay that one. But you get my drift. You understand what I'm saying here. As a political community, we come together, we decide what we want, it becomes law and we get on with it. But it's predicated on you being sovereign beings. And no Australian ever has had what you are this close to getting. You are so close. 3, 5, 10 years from now, you won't recognize the place. But because you are the leaders that will make this happen, you are the leaders that will reform this nation. Your kids and grandkids will look back at you and your great-grandkids and say, gee, they were the greatest generation of Australian ever. They withstood the assault, they pushed back, and they built this magnificent nation. And even the Americans will look at us with envy and say, gee, I wish we had the Australian way of doing business. And we'll say, come on down, folks. Plenty of room. So that's what we're about. That's where we're going to get to. But I'm going to go through some bits here now. Again, most of you will know most of that, and that's okay. Again, this is for those who don't know. This is so you can share it with people who are slowly waking up, and they will be horrified. They're going to need help. But let's go through it. Children, please turn, parents with kids, turn their heads away.
Not to mention all the people that have become prisoners in their own body due to the neurological effects from this vaccine. Of course, the big pharma companies aren't being held liable. Doesn't seem like anybody can stop the rollout of this death vax. The mainstream media doesn't want to hear about what's happening. They continue to shill their big pharma products on the unsuspecting people out there. And these are real people that are dying because of this vaccine, and nobody can hear them.
There's no shortage of information about what's going on about COVID. And in fact, I get tired of another enthusiastic email saying, oh, look, there's evidence that this is, no kidding, really? It's got to come in, it's got to be done. You with the cameras have to film it and get it online, I get it. But is there a shortage of information and evidence that this is killing people? No. We know it is. It's a conspiracy. They are the conspiracy. They are doing it. So where does the problem lie? The media. Those who will not transmit the truth. Now, you got to understand that anybody boosting this online on TV is in the pay. They are collecting money for this. Media and medical profession. They are collecting money every time they say, go get a vax. Remember the first ads that came up? We're all in this together, said the actress on her farm. Really? How many of these people, how many public servants have lost one thing out of this? Canberra's going to be an interesting gig, let me tell you that. That's the belly of the beast. But it's not just the public servants. We had the miners up Central Coast of New South Wales. They're still getting their $200,000 a year. They go down to the lake with their boat and go water skiing. They don't get it. Went through a drive through the eastern suburbs of Sydney a couple of days back. And that's the more well-heeled area in Sydney, let's just say. No COVID disaster there, no economic depression there. Where I live, though, and where the areas I travel, there's a lot of it you're experiencing here right now. And the media has refused to tell the truth. Next.
Let's see how it takes you to find it. Thank you very much. Let's go.
I'll read it for those that can't quite see the bottom of the screen. The cameras can read faces, others can estimate age, ethnicity, and gender. This factory in Hangzhou has sold 1 million facial recognition cameras in China. We can match every face with an ID card and trace all of your movement back 1 week in time. We can match your face with your car, match you with your relatives and the people you're in touch with. With enough cameras, we can know who you frequently meet.
Well, here we are then. I've just got out of the car, close to the city centre, and for the purposes of this exercise, the plan is for me to start walking in the direction of the bus station. My image has already been flagged by the authorities as a suspect, and in theory, it should only be a matter of time. So already on this bridge, I can see 1, 2, 3 CCTV cameras. Of course, there's no point hiding from them. Just keep on walking.
When the system recognizes a face, the control room raises the alarm.
Right behind me, you can see just over my left shoulder there. Hello, guys. I've been expecting you. Maybe these guys aren't in on the joke.
The exercise took just 7 minutes. For ordinary people, we will only extract their data when they need our help. When they don't need our help, it remains only in our big database. We only use it when needed.
You have nothing to hide. You have nothing to fear.
Yes, that's true. Citizens don't need to worry. And if you believe that, I've got a bridge in Sydney you'd love to buy. This is what they're already setting up. You know that. We know this. Government has no business knowing with whom you speak, where you spend your money, how you spend your money. It's none of their business. You are sovereign. It comes back to this sovereign thing. And for people who have difficulty understanding this concept, imagine you're a king or a queen. Your word is law. You're above the law. You are the law. Well, if that's the case, how can you be under the law? Now, I've had the dubious pleasure of having, I think on 4 occasions now, 4 must be at least, some gentlemen wearing guns and a very impressive badge. They're actually corporate security guards, but they think they're police officers. And they've come knocking on my door on a couple of occasions. I've had a laugh with them. On a couple of occasions, I've politely indicated that they should leave. And a couple of others, I yelled out to the bride as I opened the door, "Darling, the Masonic filth are back." That's a good thing about being a former colonel in the army. I know how to deal with turds. And these people, and forgive me if I get into soldierly language sometimes, and my wife says, "Darling, you have to be a statesman now." Just once I'd like to take off the suit and deal with them the way we used to. But these guys turn up, and I made a couple of them think on a couple of occasions. And I said at one point, "You got any kids?" "Oh, I don't answer questions, sir." "Oh, so you want me to answer questions, but you're not going to answer." "What about your mate?" I said, "Well, if you want them, I hope you haven't had the jab because it makes you sterile." Now, Mr. Strong, silent, handsome type on the side that wasn't saying much, literally did one of those comical double takes. "What?" "Oh, yeah, you're sterile. If you had the jab, you're sterile." And I don't have patience with the cops anymore because they have no authority. They are like Walmart security. They are corporate security guards. They have no lawful power over me. Now, it doesn't mean they won't shoot me or kill me or beat me up, but that's okay. I signed a contract a long time ago saying I was okay with all that shit. That's what a soldier does. But you're sovereign. The government has no right. Good old Comrade Dan and that misfit McGowan over in WA and all of them. "Oh, you have to do this because my chief health officer said so." Really? Come and tell me to my face. They have no authority. They are beyond the Constitution. We have no law in this country. This isn't some wild claim. This isn't incitement to anything, which was the last accusation these idiots made. We have no law. The Constitution was ransacked, has been ransacked over and over again over the last many, many years. There's only been 8 lawful amendments in which you, the people, voted in favour. All these other changes, they just changed the rules because they thought they could, and they did. So when the people finally realize this room gets it, I understand that. But when the rest of the country wakes up and realizes they have been had, and they have been had again and again and again, they're going to be a little bit cranky. So I'm not so much worried about this crowd taking up arms because you're too smart for that. But some crazy ones out there might just lose it, and I don't blame them. Imagine coming home and finding out that your kids are now sterile, have myocarditis, which is a death sentence in 3 to 5 years, and there's nothing you can do. They will go nuts. Now, there's a historical precedent for this. World War II, as the Russians were raping their way across Europe, and that's not a metaphor, there wasn't a woman or girl in Germany that wasn't raped by the Russians as they moved to the west. Whole families would go down to the river and drown themselves. Mum, dad, and the kids. Some had big parties, got drunk, and then blew their heads off because they couldn't face what was coming. So be prepared, folks. We are in for a very, very, very rough time. And that's why we are going to have to lead them out. Let's keep going. What's the name of your Victorian Police Commissioner? Shane Patton, Mr. Jellyback. You know those kids at school that were jellybacks? They just had nothing to them. They weren't even good or bad. They were just, that's Shane Patton apparently. So the information we've received. And they wear that nice black uniform. That's intended to intimidate apparently. Now, symbology is important. Just go ask the Masonic filth. But if you've realised that there are most of the police officers, certainly in New South Wales, light blue shirt, darker blue trousers, it's a calming colour. That's why they dress like that. And so the imbeciles that rejigged the Victorian, the VicPol uniforms into black were supposed to intimidate Australians. Well, see, we're not like that. We just look and laugh and go, really? Good on you, mate. Look like a clown. And who was that fat guy that used to get on the... He's the guy that used to steal other people's lunches out of the fridge. That's your other assistant commissioner. He's the guy, the fat guy, that takes other people's lunch out of the fridge at work. Serious, I'm not making a joke. This is them. These are your assistant commissioners. So, I get a lot of advice from people about flags. You know, the red ensign. And they might be right. I get that. You know, they're passionate about red ensign and others are passionate about something else, and that's great. And they say, our diggers fought under this flag. Well, that may or may not be true. But I can tell you what, having studied military history and been in the army for more than 2 minutes, I can tell you what those diggers from World War I would be saying about us if they knew what we were doing today. They'd say, I don't care about the flag. Get off your asses and start fighting. Again, not incitement, not physically, just stand. Resist. Okay? That's what they would be saying in their thousands. I'm reading, anybody here who know who Sir John Monash is? General Sir John Monash. Yeah, see, damn. One of the greatest Australians that ever lived. Greatest Australians, Victorian. He built bridges over the Yarra. He was an engineer. He fought cases in court. He was a lawyer. And General Sir John Monash was the first general in 200 years to be knighted on the field of battle by a British monarch. He's a German Jew that came out to Australia. No, he was born in Australia. His parents came out during the gold rush in the late 1800s, born in Australia, worked his way up, single-handedly ended the war in 1918. They thought it would go into 1919, 1920. But Monash's brilliance to coordinate for the first time these new technologies of aircraft, machine guns, tanks, infantry, cavalry, coordinated and synchronized in such a way that engineers' meticulous approach. He ended the war. We're coming up to the anniversary of that, Armistice Day, 11th of November. 11th. Monash was a Victorian. If he was here today and he saw what Monash University is named after him is doing, I think he'd personally go down there and sort them out. at Monash, Victorian. The local cops went on strike. Such was Monash's prestige and power. After the war, he rang up all his old mates and said, right, when the police are on strike, Melbourne is in chaos, let's take it under control. And so all the old diggers loved this guy so much, they all turned up and they just settled everything down. People on the streets making sure that people were safe. That's Monash. He would be turning in his grave, but I tell you what, he'd be proud of that. He'd be proud of that. That's what we need to do.
It uses prisoners of conscience.
The majority of these prisoners are practitioners of Falun Gong, which is a peaceful Buddha school practice. These prisoners in China are being held in camps, having all their vital statistics taken, blood type and so on, and then executed when on demand, when a suitable recipient makes a booking for surgery to receive a kidney or heart, liver or other organ.
They're treated like animals, and they're slaughtered like animals. That's why I consider this a crime against humanity, not a question of prisoners' rights or rights of these.
The parallels to what was happening to Jewish prisoners and others in Nazi concentration camps in Germany were too obvious to ignore. The government keeps telling us this is a terrible thing, which is comparable to what the Nazis did. And the Falun Gong persecution began in July of 1999. Organ transplants in China began doubling and tripling from the year 2000. Many practitioners refused to reveal their identities in order to protect their families, so that leads to a large pool of unidentified or anonymous prisoners in good health who are quite not on the books. They can be killed with impunity.
Everybody knows that Falun Gong practitioners are considered healthier than many people. You don't smoke or drink. You are very disciplined. You do exercises every day. And tragically, a lot of people who have hepatitis or whatever, both in China and outside of China, think they must get a liver, whatever organ from a Falun Gong practitioner. And as David and I discovered, there's a real effort to get Falun Gong, innocent prisoners of conscience of Falun Gong, to be killed for their organs.
There's no evidence that Falun Gong is a cult of any sort. There's no evidence of political action to try and bring down the Chinese government. There's no evidence of anything other than a deep desire to be left alone to practice their spiritual beliefs in peace and to not be locked up and murdered.
China is a sovereign country. In some ways, we abhor the ethical arguments around it are clear. We abhor what is happening.
Very few people have actually heard about the situation, and those who hear about it, they just won't believe it. It's so awful to imagine it's true. So what we need to do is put out the facts, tell about what's happening in China, so more people is aware of the situation. My first reaction was that I was shocked too. First thing I thought, this just can't be true. This is so disgusting, so awful. Mankind can't be that mean. But then you get the facts, the numbers of people being murdered. You see, it's true. The regime in China is this awful. When you realize this is true, you have to do something about it.
So what can we do? My action is to try and publicize these atrocities. I'm hoping that you too will give this your attention by letting your friends know, speaking to people at work. I'm sure you, like me, would want to let other people know this is going on. Because ultimately, we need to bring pressure on China to stop this atrocious activity.
A1's been vocal about this for some time now. We're getting the word out. It gets worse. Again, bear with me if you've heard this before. The Uyghurs are the ethnic Chinese Muslim community, and they are targeted by the authorities to provide halal organs for the Middle Eastern market. This is the Chinese Communist Party. And people say, oh, don't blame the Chinese, it's a CCP. Really? So what are 1 billion Chinese people doing? Following orders. So in my mind, I'm a simple soldier, I really am. I get accused of overthinking things, but in reality, if you see something wrong and don't do anything about it, you're guilty. You're complicit. Your silence is consent. So don't come to me and say, oh, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. Did you do anything against it? No. Watch your asses, we lock you up. This comes back to the definition of morality. Because I keep saying we need to be a moral party. We need to be a moral people. Well, for my money, morality is quite simple. A moral people are those that know the difference between right and wrong. And then they think, speak, and act to advance the right and eradicate the wrong. And somebody once said, but a lighthouse doesn't chase boats. It stands there and shines its light. Yeah, well, I'm no lighthouse. Heroes go out and rescue those that are drowning. Does that make sense? Australia One needs heroes, not lighthouses. Okay? So you can be a lighthouse all you like, and we need lighthouses. Don't come to us. We need people ready to do something. Richard Marles, I think, is the current imbecilic Labor Minister for Defence. I think that's him, his current job. Richard Marles previously, when he was in the same job in the last Labor administration, proudly said, we should have closer defence ties with China. Thanks, Richard. Champion. It's a bit like saying we should have closer defence ties with Adolf Hitler in 1938. Worse, China's been destroying this country for decades, facilitated by, and I can't say Richard Marles is corrupt because then I'll get into trouble. But maybe, just maybe, the pollies have other priorities. How is it that our MPs in Canberra and in the States, Comrade Dan has a very cozy relationship with the Chinese Communist Party? How is it this all happens? I don't know, I'm a simple soldier. I can't say corrupt. But Marles wants closer defence ties. Paul Keating suggested to the security agencies, ASIO and ASIS, should be less harsh on China. Now, they own half the country already. What about our business people? They've got nothing to do with politics. They just want to make a profit. Good on them. Twiggy Forrest, making money off China. Clive Palmer, $3.8 billion in the last financial year, making money off China. And the rest of them. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on our own. Anybody in a position of power, anybody that appears on the mainstream media is part of the problem. That's the test. I'll never get invited on mainstream media. And the moment I do get invited, I'll let you know because I've got one message for them. I'll let you guess what that might be. We are on our own. The leadership of every aspect of this country is utterly corrupted. The means by which they control us, the mechanics of it, because, you know, highfalutin ideas are great, but how do they do it? Masonic filth, we know that. The Masonic filth has penetrated every aspect of this country, the leadership. And you've heard it before, but I'll say it again for our friends overseas. The polity, the bureaucracy, the judiciary, the constabulary, the military, media, academia, every lodge, every temple, every church, the lot. Big union, big business, they are all controlled by Masonic filth. And just so we're clear on this, the people at the bottom think it's just a nice gentleman's club, and ladies' club too, because there's female Masons, to advance their business. And yet they take oaths like, I promise if I betray another Mason, I'll have my heart plucked out of my chest and fed to birds of carrion or whatever the nonsense is. What sort of imbecile do you have to be to take an oath like that, for starters? I mean, seriously. You got to stop halfway through and go, hang on a minute. On a technical point, anybody that's taken that oath and works for the government is de facto guilty of treason. You can't have a higher loyalty. And then as you get up the Masonic filth, we know it's at its very top is satanic ritual abuse. Again, not conspiracy. Do your research. I have read so much about this nonsense, more than I ever wanted to know. It's up there. Just ask the Masons that are wandering around, what happens at the jester level? Oh, I've never heard of that. That's because you're an idiot. Because you are working for satanic forces. Now, you may not believe in it, but they certainly do. And that's the point. That's the point. We could go on with the videos. There's no shortage of it, but let's just jump through a few fast ones because there may be some here you haven't heard of. Legislative tyranny that has been rolling out. Rainmaking Control Act 1967, Section 8, cloud seeding in Victoria to induce rainfall in another state. That's okay. If you didn't know, that's okay, because man, oh man, they do this on purpose. They slip this stuff in, like Queensland, legislation to irradiate fruit and veg. Anybody here with even a half an inkling about what irradiation might do to the seeds in fruit and vegetables? They are removing your capacity to actually plant a seed and grow a tree. I don't know how many of you tried to grow avocados. I've had about 6,000 of these things sitting on my windowsill with the little toothpicks. Not even close to germinating. Not one. Jackie, on the other hand, a good friend of ours, she just throws them out the back window. Boof, there's a tree within about 2.5 minutes. So we go to her and she gives us the avocados, which is not a bad idea for the future. Snowy Mountains Cloud Seeding Act of 2004, Queensland Cloud Seeding Research Program, CSIRO Marine and Atmospheric Research Guidelines for the Utilisation of Cloud Seeding as a Tool for Water Management, May 1995. Well, they've been managing the water nicely, haven't they? When they want a drought, they'll have the drought and then burn the land and have us crying over burnt koalas. But they'll also make sure that the proposed fast rail up the eastern seaboard is destroyed and not repaired. And then they'll flood it when you don't need it. Because we had Warragamba Dam in New South Wales, the big floods were coming, and just as it was filled, they let the environmental flows go through, which washed everything away and destroyed it. It's not a conspiracy to say that 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 might equal 4. And once again, get back to the media, and I'll give you the names, because these are the names that people trust. Alan Jones, the people's champion, who never mentions pedophiles. Wonder why. Peter Credlin, former Chief of Staff to Prime Minister Tony Abbott, wife of the Federal Director of the Leader Party, Brian Loughnane, the Catholic that believes that abortions at full term are no problem. Paul Murray, the cashed up bogan, his definition, not mine, who calls that piece of filth, Graham Richardson, the former Labor minister, the great man. And those of us who have been around for more than 2.5 minutes know what he was great at. And then there's Andrew Bolt. Good old Andrew, lovely Andrew. Andrew's a lovely guy. I've never met a nicer bloke. I've not met him. He seems to be a nice guy. He's still waiting for a spine donor, though. So if any of you got a spare one out there, call Andrew Bolt, because he could use it, because I haven't seen any evidence that that guy has it. Oh, but, you know, I've got to tell the truth from the inside. How about you quit your job like the rest of us, spend your time saving 15 cents at Coles and Woolies for a tin of baked beans, because you have to, and fight. But no. Good old spineless squib Andrew Bolt, wetter than a fish's wet bits, has said and done nothing. And I like picking on those ones. And there's a whole bunch of second stringers in the media that won't speak. And if you go back to my definition of morality, a group of individuals who know the difference between right and wrong and then think, speak, and act to advance the right and eradicate the wrong. So they're not moral. I would not like to be any of those 4 in a month or 3, because their world is about to fall apart. And it continues. Defence Legislation Amendment, brackets, Enhancement of the Defence Force Responsibilities to Emergencies Bill 2020, Section 123 AA, brackets 4. My wife is very particular that I get the brackets right. She's had the legal training, I haven't. That's what people don't get about soldiers. They say, you're too rude, you're too polarizing. A lawyer's job is to know the rules and work them. A police person's job is to lower the temperature. A soldier's job is to squeeze a trigger. Do you understand the difference? When it gets to me, it's not negotiation time. That was done by the diplomats and everybody else. Now it's time to squeeze a trigger. Once again, for those imbeciles in VicPol and the AFP, this is not incitement to violence. This is what will happen once we are lawfully in power and we have them lawfully charged and lawfully tried and then lawfully executed. This one here, this allows foreign military, foreign police to operate in Australia with impunity. And you've seen them. The black ninjas, the black suited ninjas that don't quite wear VicPol badges, the little VicPol badge, the inverted pentagram, which is a satanic symbol. But no, nothing to see here, folks. And this is the one that a lot of people went, oh, nothing to see here. It's all okay. It's all good. No, it's not. No, it's not. Gene Technology Act 2000, Section 58, limited control and release applications. Aerial spraying of things that aren't good for you. Your bugs, please understand how they see you. You are bugs. You know, at some point you might have been sheep to be shorn and cows to be milked, but right now you're bugs and they just want you gone. Please leave. You're useless eaters. That's their words, not mine. You think you have a soul. You think you're made in the image of God. You think you have intrinsic worth simply by the virtue of your birth as a human being. They don't. You are bugs. Surveillance Legislation Amendment, Identify and Disrupt, Bill 2021. That's the one that says they can get into your social media and amend, delete, add material for national security reasons, of course. Again, this is ASIO in my opinion, in the act of manufacturing crime rather than actually detecting it. Because I don't know if you know this, but if you have a social media account and let's say somebody makes a comment 4 years ago, you can be and will be charged. So the carrier's not responsibility, but somehow you are. And a woman was charged with exactly that. And this is ASIO, which hasn't kept a secret worth a damn since it was established. 2020 parliamentary inquiry into the impact, and listen to this very carefully, the emerging technologies impact on the Privacy Act, including human microchip implants and radio frequency identification RFID chips. Now remember when we started talking about RFID being injected and tracking, and they said you're just a bunch of loons. Strangely enough, back in 2020, they're already looking at the impact of this on the Privacy Act, allegedly to protect us. No. It's there to track us. You can tell what's real if you go to Snopes, and if they say it's rubbish, it's real. Anything the mainstream media tells you is wrong is right. That's how you can tell. Did you ask for any of this? At any point in your life, have you asked for what I've just been rolling out and what you've been seeing for yourself? Absolutely not. Did they tell you? Of course not. You'll have Dan Andrews, and I don't know who the idiot Liberal leader in this state is, and it doesn't really matter. They're the two wings of the same bird. Matthew Guy. Is he? Really? So he's an apron-wearing goat botherer. You screw one goat. See, that's not statesman. I shouldn't do that. I'm very sorry. I apologize to Matthew. You know, if Matthew is indeed not Masonic filth, I do apologize, and I'm happy for him to come and visit me, and I'll personally deliver an apology to him. And that's not incitement either. Now, did they tell you this stuff? No. Of course not. They slip this up and they come up with things like better roads, more jobs. Watch it. Better roads, more jobs. Level crossings, better level crossings. You need level crossings. Let's talk about level crossings. Victorians done nothing but level crossings for the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Good on you, Dan. We're done. You did your job. Congratulate you. Actually did your job. Oh, alarm bells. If the ABC ever says, oh, this candidate is a good Catholic, be really careful. Because the ABC only, the Australian Bolshevik Collective, only praises Catholicism when some piece of slime just got elected. They're trying to hose down the concern from genuinely good people. That's what they said about Dan when he got elected. Word perfect. ABC, good Catholic father of 6,000 or whatever he was. Is it possible there is more we don't know? If this is just the little that we know about, if this continues unchecked, what will they do to us next? Now it's going to get ugly, folks, because I don't know how deep you've dived into these holes, but I've got to tell you, my bride and I, every so often we just got to go out in the garden and pull weeds or do something that's natural, because this is now this is the stuff that's going to really, most people have real difficulty handling it. And when the truth comes out, and this is what I'm about to show you is the tip of the iceberg. It is, let me show you. Ready to go? Now, oh yeah, if you've got kids who can, yeah, if you can leave. Our two daughters are the most amazing young ladies. They are so robust, so strong. They've learned some things that most adults couldn't handle, but there's just some things you've got to not do. Okay. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Some of you will go, yeah, I know about that. Others will have difficulty. Some might want to leave and say, this is all rubbish. That's fine. It is absolutely fine. I'm a free speech advocate. I'm a free action advocate. I have a libertarian streak a mile wide. I really do. This is just our view. And this is what we found out. Now, we were sent a document some time ago. We get sent a lot of stuff, most of it quite disgusting. But unless we can verify it at the time, we just sit on it and leave it to one side. This is one of those documents. And until very recently, we hadn't had, what's the best way to put this? Confirmation is the best word, okay? But let's go through it. And we've recently got that confirmation, not on this particular one, but this is an indication of what is going on. Human as lab rats. Okay, now I'm going to read this out to you. This is how it came to us. Monthly examination report, January 5, 2004. Name deleted, and the name of the child, Libitina, 3 years of age. And you'll see what those X's refer to shortly. You can see the other things, date of birth, sex, height, weight. The wing and the room. So there you go. She's in a facility of some sort. Let's keep going. There we go. Subject notes, and the important bits of this. Addendum. Introducing bias during testing as a result of personal attachment to the subject will henceforth be punishable by death. So you've got some technician doing stuff to this little girl, and if the person starts adjusting the reports because of some human response, punishable by death. Now you'll go, oh, that sounds like complete garbage. As I said, you don't have to believe in satanic ritual abuse. They do. They do. Physical results. BMI, that's the body mass index, a whole bunch of things going down there. Pain tolerance from 1 to 10, 3. Pain tolerance. What does that mean they're doing? Don't answer. Gets worse. Physical results. Third eye. Who knows what the third eye is alleged to be? You don't have to believe it, but you've heard what you think it might be. For those of you who don't know, I strongly recommend you go home tonight and decide for yourself what it is, what its function is allegedly, and if indeed it exists. For those that you do know, this is our connection to bingo, the third eye. Focused on the pineal gland. You know what the pineal gland is? Again, don't believe me. Don't believe a word I've said today. Please check it out for yourself. Who knows what fluoride does to the pineal gland? I love a smart audience, don't you? It calcifies the pineal gland, allegedly to block your capacity to commune with the other side. Now, third eye. You go down there. You have a look. Where's the little red dot? Yeah, there it is. Positivity 1 to 10. Sensitivity 9. Control 1. They can't control it very well. There's something about it. Let's move on. Physical results. The following occasional behaviors have been noted and should be ignored in future examinations. Remember, we are talking about a 3-year-old girl. Twitching, vocal tics, biting, epiphora, vomiting, screaming, harm to examiner, harm to self, misplaced laughter. Any self-harm attempts must be interrupted immediately. You've got to be a really special kind of sick to direct this and then execute it on somebody else's behalf. Test results. You've got physical control, emotional control. Third eye activation test, 100, passed. Third eye suppression test, 8, failed. They are having massive difficulty suppressing the third eye. That's how powerful it is. That's why, on a general level, even if you don't believe this stuff, and that's great, I don't care. For 50, 60, 70 years, they've been bombarding us with everything negative that you can imagine, from the ads on TV to the movies you watch and your favorite film stars. Cary Grant. I loved Cary Grant and Doris Day films. I used to watch them with my mum. That's what I thought a male-female relationship was like. He was strong and respectful, and she was gorgeous. And I watched a Cary Grant film with Doris Day in which he said, he was talking to another husband, and he said, yeah, what do you do on a case like that? Oh, I don't know, I might give her a backhander or something like that. And man, oh man, did I have to recalibrate everything I thought about the 1950s films. They've been pushing this stuff for decades. They've been telling men it's okay to give your wife a bit of a touch-up. Cary Grant, debonair, sophisticated. The man all men wanted to be, and the man all women wanted to be with. And here he is in a movie sending the message. Fred McMurray. Who remembers Fred McMurray from My Three Sons? Remember that? Great show. See, all the old folks will remember. You young kids are going, who the hell's Fred McMurray? Leave it to Beaver. Those great shows. And they were great shows because what they did was they showed how families should be. Instead of advancing or examining the broken, they examined what was healthy, what a healthy family looked like. And it was fantastic. And that's why when you look at psychologists, the psychologists and psychiatrists today are studying the sick instead of the well and saying, why don't we do what the well are doing? Because they seem to be adjusted. They seem to be reliable. They seem to be self-reliant. They seem to be all these things. Abraham Maslow, hierarchy of needs, he focused on the well. The loons today are focusing on the sick, and then they want to give them some injections for it. But Fred McMurray had an image and a persona and an influence because he was this perfect dad. Always had the answer. Didn't matter what his kids came home with a problem. And there's a thing called social proof. When you see somebody else do it, you know you can do it yourself. The classic example I like to use is the 4-minute mile. The experts said the human body cannot withstand the pressures of the 4-minute mile, so it'll never be done. It can't be done. It's impossible till somebody did. And then within 12 months, another 3 people did it. Social proof. They saw it could be done. That's why they use the movies so importantly, because they show us, because they'll give you a social situation. You don't know how to respond. You see the man or woman you have loved and trusted for decades, and they take a certain act. You think, oh, I'll do that too. Everyone does it. So don't shake your head at me and say, I'm not like that. I'm strong and independent. And I think for myself, bullshit. You're all influenced by stuff around you, whether you know it or not. And there's Fred McMurray. And then I saw another film with Fred McMurray. And here he is. He's an advertising man, Madison Avenue guy, I think. This came out in the 60s. And the theme of the film it was called The Apartment. And this was an apartment all the executives in this company would take their mistresses to. And there's Fred McMurray sitting on a desk being all relaxed and avuncular. Yeah, there's no problem. It's not like we're going to leave our wives, but, we need a bit of fun. Ka-ching. 150 million American men went, great. Fred McMurray said, I can do it, so I'm going to go and do it. That sounds lame, but ladies, you are the same. What do you think Haircuts for you cost $600 and for us it costs 25. Sorry. Why was 50 Shades of Grey the biggest selling book? How many? 50 million internationally? 50 million? And the story, for those you don't know, was about a woman who was, what's the nicest way to describe it? Anybody help me out here? She allowed herself to be dominated in every gratuitous way by a guy. So let's put this male-female competition to one side and realize that these guys hate us both. Third eye. Despite all of that they've been hitting us with, we are still here. We are still fighting the good fight, despite acres and acres and acres of information and evidence that we should change. And guess what? The fact you're sitting here, and when Carl said, give yourselves a hand, he meant it. You are heroic. You have fought this internal battle and kept the faith. You should be proud of yourselves. Do it again, please. I mean it. Moving on, sexual response test, NANA, we'll get to that in a minute. Life threat response test, life threat elimination test. What are they doing to this 3-year-old girl? And this is the tip of the iceberg. This isn't the worst of it. Test notes. Sexual response test is bypassed during prepubescence, requested by bypassing the following tests: third eye activation test, third eye suppression test, life threat response test, life threat elimination test. They requested they all be eliminated. Those requests were denied. So the little girl had to go through all of that. Libertina has not yet recovered from the termination of XXXXXXX. We assume that was her mother. Now, the manner in which that mother was terminated and whether the daughter was involved or witnessed it, I'll leave to your imagination. And is not expected to do so in the near future. So the little girl now is completely traumatized for life. Who's heard of MK Ultra? Again, when people tell you it's a nonsense conspiracy, 5 minutes grueling research on the internet will find it for you. Continuing to administer these tests will not only accelerate the deterioration of Libertina's health, you are choosing to avoid the measures necessary to prevent a repeat scenario. Doctor, will you not have as much faith in your personnel as you do in your God? So this technician is telling the doctor, you got to stop this, and the doctor's going, no, you don't. And the God this technician is referring to, anyone who want to guess? Satan. Again, you don't have to believe it, but they do. And when their God says you've got to do this to little girls, end of report. Okay, that's it. We're going to take questions now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the tip of the iceberg. This is as bad as COVID is, as bad as the floods are, as bad as everything that you've been putting up with for decades now, the injection of kids. What is about to be revealed over the next few months, and it will, is going to shock you, it'll shock the people. We're going to have to get through it. We have to toughen up and be ready to help. In the military, it's called battle inoculation. They get you to crawl under barbed wire while a machine gun is firing real rounds over your head, just to get used to the shock. So you don't get shocked by it. You don't necessarily like it, but you can handle yourself. You have to do the same, folks. Australia will need you. They all need people who can handle this. You'll have your moments. You'll want to go in the corner and have a cry. I get it. And you dry your tears, you get back to work. Or in my case, you go to a punching bag. End of report.
All right.
This child, Libertina, was a test subject. You, your children, and your grandchildren are now test subjects. You're there. You already are. Conclusion. The answer is not whether to choose left or right. It's not even to choose between right and wrong, which has been our catch cry for a long time. We must now acknowledge we are fighting pure evil. When you get that in your head, when you really get it, you'll understand why I am the way I am. This isn't some lightweight. When I get a question like, what's your plastics policy? And I answer with, we're going to put it over the heads of the pedophiles. And I think it's funny. Now, I think that's funny, but some people don't apparently. I can't imagine why. And so you're going to have to become hard, but not insensitive. Does that make sense? You have to withstand the hit. You got to be tough. You got to take the hit without suffering deformation. You got to be resilient. You got to take the hit and bounce back. That's what we have to be. That's what A1 needs to be, every one of us. And as Carl quite rightly said, I think it's Carl. No, Dave Graham. Dave Graham said it, and he's a man worth listening to. Find what you're good at and do it. Okay, I'm good at certain things, so I stick to that. We've got a champion down here who's one of the candidates. Yeah. Stand up for a second.
Darren Bergworth, ladies and gentlemen.
Darren knows what he's good at, and he's doing it. Okay, find out whatever it is you're good at and get on with it. And I mean it. And I mean this sincerely. If you don't want to do anything else except bake lamingtons, you can do that too. And I mean it. I mean it. Whatever you do, do it. Join the army. Let's get on and win this war. What do you say?
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, please put your hand up and I'll come to you with the microphone. Otherwise, nobody online hears you, and we do want some questions. I will start with the bloke who's been very kind to me in the last week or so. I've shared his house. I've shared my place. We've shared a few beers. It's been a bloody great week. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the man who's making Melbourne bloody brilliant, Darren Bergworth. Be independent for Frankston.
Thanks, Carl. It is, yeah. Thanks, Carl. First of all, Rick, thanks very much for coming down to Melbourne and doing this presentation today. I'm still 100% on board, and I love what you're doing, and I'm really looking forward to the reveal of all the players in this movie. I'm getting a lot of questions at the moment regarding some stuff that people are concerned about that don't really know that there's stuff coming down the line, and that is the digital directorships. And also the smart cities that Frankston and Shepparton and quite a few others are being rolled out. I'm trying to come up with some answers for them. How significant are those signatures going to be? And I'm telling them, look, if you feel you need to do that, then you need to do it. But I don't think they're going to be relevant in 3 months. But so what would your answer be for these people?
No, it's a fair question. Thanks, Darren. We have the same problem up in Sydney. Now, what is happening is the Black Hats are rolling out their agenda. So all the bad things you are seeing is what they intended for us. They have had to accelerate the whole program because of Trump's Operation Warp Speed. Just on that, just to set the context, Warp Speed was Trump's way of accelerating the whole vax process so it broke. It wasn't ready. And things started to fall over. But smart cities was always their intention. That was their goal. That's what the Black Hats wanted. Everybody locked in boxes so they could control them. 5G towers everywhere. Now, 5G, as you know, it transmits at a frequency and a potential power that is deleterious to human health. Plus, it's also allegedly used to control, because when they inject you, they can control you and kill you. It's not just another form of communication, because it is, if you're in a telco and you want to provide comms, you want as few towers as possible. So you want a good signal that can travel long distances. 5G doesn't. Fog and rain interferes with 5G transmission, so they have lots of towers. On those towers, you have 5G, you have facial recognition cameras, which is part of the smart cities network. They control everything you say and do, which ties into the social credit score, which ties into your digital currency, which ties into you as being utterly controlled. And if people say, oh, they can't zero your bank balance, it happened to a guy in Canada over 1.5 years ago. He said something, bang, his money was gone. So back to this. Is it happening? Yes. Is it the Black Hats' plan? Yes. It will continue to roll out until they are stopped. Now, as I've said, there are good people doing bad things to very bad people on our behalf. From the US to Vladimir Putin in Russia, taking out bad people in Ukraine, and other armies around the planet. This war has been going on for 60 years since JFK's assassination. 60 odd years at least. Large, complex. Now, so these towers are going up. The smart cities will continue to be advanced. Their policies will continue to be advanced until they are stopped. The good guys, the white hats, are doing their bit. We have to do our bit. We've got to help them. How do we do that? we stand up. We just stand up, bring the country to a standstill. Now, I know people aren't going to do it because we've got too many people that are comfortable, the public servants, the TV, all those guys. But we must stand up. And it doesn't matter whether we do it in a park on a Saturday for an hour. We have to stand up. We have to be worthy of this massive effort that other people are executing on our behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to owe a debt of gratitude to the Americans and others that we will never be able to repay. I mean, never, never. That's one we have to remember. And we have to be worthy of that sacrifice because they are real sacrifices right now. Soldiers are fighting and dying below ground, have been for a long time. The least we can do, this is what you do, start organising those stands in the parks again. Because everybody thought, and we predicted this back in Canberra, the moment they turn off the COVID for a bit, everybody thinks the war is over. And what did we say? It's not about COVID, it's about removing the filth from the parliament. Because they'll just do it again and again and again. And they are. So it is going to happen, and it will continue moving ahead. But like an attack on converging axes, the white hats are coming in one way, but we've got to come in the other way. Please start organising. Don't care whether you do it as a family, join Darren's My Place group or whatever, because the My Place idea is brilliant. And, you know, and Carl's dead right. Darren's making Melbourne bloody brilliant again.
Yeah. If you haven't been to My Place Frankston, folks, go and visit. Wednesday, Friday night for social night. Just go down and check it out. Sunday. Is the market every Sunday, Darren? Once a month. Third Sunday of every month. Go down and visit the markets on a Sunday. Go down, sure, buy your fruit and veg, but you will meet so many people just like you. I'm getting tingles just talking about it. The hair is standing up in the back of my neck. The feeling that you walk, when you walk into there and everybody loves you, everybody talks to you. Once again, it's that book. We're all reading the same book. We're all on different pages. It's an information sharing opportunity. And even though you might only be on page 2 of the book and I might be on page 200, you've probably seen something in the first 2 pages that I missed because I read too bloody quickly. It's information sharing. That's what this is about. And it's building community. 9 of them now. So that's great. I've had inquiries coming through this morning. Benalla this morning are looking for a My Place and potentially a council as well. And the way to do this, folks, is to build a My Place and form your council from that. Darren's got the plan, and you can go and check them out at his website. Sorry, Rick.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly the point. The other real benefit is you're amongst friends.
Yep.
And it just recharges you. All of a sudden, you don't feel alone. We did it, myself, Dave Graham, and Carl. We did an interview the other night with some MAGA people in the US, and we had a couple of questions, and there were a couple of men that got on board, and they just broke down in tears, tears of relief. Now, if you go to a My Place or you join an A1 group or whatever you want to do it, because in community you are stronger. You'll support each other. It is so important. They have divided us, husband against wife, child against parent. Union against employer, you name it. They just keep dividing, and that's why we're weak. And they hate us. They fear us. They fear us, ladies and gentlemen. They are terrified.
If you have a question, folks, put your hand up. I'll come running to you. Just be careful. Large man moving quickly. Inertia is my friend, not yours.
Thank you. Ricardo, I just really want to thank you for what you're doing. It's amazing. And I've been noticing an uncharacteristic lack in the advertising pre the next election. We've got no letterbox drops. There's very little on television in the media. Is it significant?
I hadn't noticed it down here, but okay, let's just work through it. There was a similar lack in the federal election in which I ran in Greenway up in New South Wales. That's my electorate there. We had more Bosie cornflakes up than Labor Liberal put together. And like you, something tweaked. I noticed what I noticed. That makes sense? Now, at that time, what I said to myself was, it's rigged. They know who's going to win. They're not wasting the money. They win the election by replacing boxes of ballots rather than actually getting votes. That makes sense? So if the same thing is happening here, my guess is this is rigged. They're going to, and we know they're going to cheat. It's been going on forever. This isn't, again, a flight of fancy. Read the books by Dr. Amy McGrath, Frauding of Votes, Frauding Elections. It's been going on for decades. Labor even boasted about it. They all did. They boasted. So my guess is the winner has been selected, or the winners have been selected, and don't waste the money. Why waste the money? Why waste the money? So what do you do when you know you've got to fight a rigged election? And we know it's rigged. I know that. Well aware of it. What you do is you make it really hard for them to cheat, because they will cheat. They have boxes of ballots ready to go, and they just swap one box for another, like they did with Biden in the US. 100% of these ballots all went to Biden. Statistically impossible. Same thing's going to happen here in Vic. So don't expect an honest election. But what you've got to do is go to speak to Craig, get in and support the A1 checked candidates. They're not A1 candidates. They are independent, genuine, in the sense that even when Craig and the others ran previously, and then they asked me, how do I preference? I said, that's up to you. You're an independent candidate. We vet you. We give you a platform. We give you some aims and objectives. We give you policies. Sign up to that, and we'll propose that you do it. But you have to win your people. But go see Craig, support, find out who the candidates are. If there's one in your electorate, go and support them. If there are none in your electorate, because I think there's 6, we got 6 A1 vetted candidates for the Vic state election. Move in. We had in Greenway in New South Wales, where I ran, my God, I had a pair of sisters actually drove up from Melbourne to help. It was just brilliant. There they are. And I recognise you. They came up, and this is, yeah, that's fantastic. Contact Craig, get in, find out where the candidates are, and get a bus together and go down and help. Letterbox drop, drive out and just do the letterbox, once a week, whatever you can do. And again, if you want to bake the Lamingtons, for God's sake, bake the Lamingtons, because I love a Lamington. Despite my Italian heritage, I love Lamingtons. Now, so that's what you can do. So is there something suspicious? My guess is yes. They've picked the solution that I want to spend the money. So what do? Make it really hard. Really hard. And we had so many good volunteers that they put in a lot of results to the AEC saying, well, this, I saw this, and I saw this, and I saw this, and I saw this. They haven't responded to any one of them. I'm not suggesting that Tom Rogers, the Australian Electoral Commissioner, let's make him internationally famous, everybody. Tom Rogers, my old mate from the Royal Military College. Good on you, Tom. Yeah. Not suggesting his Masonic filth. But why was he in Wuhan in the weeks leading up to the federal election? What has an Australian Electoral Commissioner, what business has he in China? You'd think he'd be sort of busy, don't you? Nothing to see here, folks. And no suggestion that Tom is Masonic filth or corrupt. He's right. So yeah, go see Craig, band together, help the candidates, and make it hard for them to cheat, okay?
Rick, just a question from online. Somebody was asking, is there a preference system you would push for Victoria? Do you vote Liberal rather than Labor after you've voted Independent first, of course? Which is the best way to go?
Do I suck on a 12 gauge, or do I put a 357 through my forehead? Yeah, no, that's a great question. It is, because, and you make up your own mind, because there would be some Liberal Labor candidates, they're all awful, but some will be better than others. So literally make up your own mind. We never preference parties. We preference individuals. That's why I say to the people running, look at each individual and see of this awful lot, who is the least worst, and go with that. But that's why we're going to have, when we get into power, and we will, and when we fix the electoral system, and we will, we've got what we call the Grimshaw option. Now, Grimshaw was a former A1 guy, lovely guy, and he came up with this idea where there's a last box on the ballot sheet and it says no suitable candidate. So if no suitable candidate gets more votes than anybody else, they all lose. And you go back again. Why should you be compelled to vote for some Masonic piece of filth? You shouldn't. And so there you go. So, well, optional preferential voting. This is the Jeff Grimshaw option. I love it. Optional preferential voting. So you want to vote one because there's only one decent chap in there, like Darren or Craig, and you don't want to vote for anybody else, you don't have to. Your vote extinguishes after that, so you're never compelled to vote for somebody. The second part is that no suitable candidate. See what I mean about sovereignty? When you get the principles right, every problem you are given has to go through that prism. Now, what enhances the sovereignty of an individual election? Recall elections. 50% plus one of the electorate says you're a busted flush, you're out. No more of this, you serve for 3 or 4 years and then try again. No. You are responsive to the people 24/7, 365 for the term of that that parliament. Make sense? Always enhancing your sovereignty, always giving you the power so you get to do what you want and you're not compelled to follow anybody else. Make sense?
I just wanted to ask, this is sort of a selfish question, I suppose, but we're hearing all the time about what the vax is doing to people, and it's really hard to hear when you know your husband has had it and your children and their spouses. I just wondered if you could give us any hope with the med beds or anything about, when they're likely to come in and, just give us that hope. So,
sure.
Yeah.
And hope's important. I can't talk about med beds specifically because like you, I've heard a lot of stories. But the worst thing you can do is wait for the med beds. And I mean that. Now, if I had a dear one who got the kill shot, the jab, whatever you call it, mRNA experimental vaccine, I'd be giving them as much healthy food as I possibly can, because when the body is in an optimal condition, it does what it does best and it protects itself. Okay? That's step number one. The example I like to use is during the AIDS epidemic. A lot of the doctors were losing patients, not because of AIDS, because that's acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, that their immune system is shot. But he kept them alive, and he had one patient who had 4 bouts of pneumonia and survived. Now, normally, the patient would have died after the first. All he did, this doctor, was micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals. What they call in the medical profession a bolus, which is like a massive dose. He kept this patient alive to get through just on nutrition. So if someone I loved had done that, I wouldn't tell them I'm doing it. But instead of buying tin stuff, and I do this anyway when I'm making my famous pasta sauces, I do it from scratch.
Yeah.
Everything from scratch.
Yeah.
And in fact, and I'll get onto the second bit shortly, when the bride was first diagnosed with MS, the imbecile doctor, best in Adelaide for MS, we went to see him. And he said, I've got some treatment for you, but you'll be in a wheelchair in 18 months and dead in 3 years. That was 2009. We decided he was an idiot, and my wife told him so in very direct language. And if you think my language gets salty, you should listen to her. So what we did was we found out about nutrition and the power of nutrition. I started cooking everything from scratch, and I made this risotto alla marinara, seafood risotto. But I made the fish stock myself, fresh tomatoes, made the puree, reduced the puree. Everything was fresh, absolutely fresh. And we made a bit of a day of it and had fun poking the fish's head with the eye and things like that. And what do you do with a 9-year-old boy? Have a look at this. But anyway, the point of that was that meal, when I cooked it, didn't even use tin tomatoes, which I do now because it's just so bloody time consuming. But the food, you could taste the energy in the food. Now, I'd heard this before, and I thought, that sounds a bit woo-woo for me. I'm not prone to that sort of stuff. I'm a soldier. See it, shoot it, eat it. It's all good. But you could eat you ate this marinara in this meal, and you could literally, it just tasted like it had energy. And after I think it was about 2-3 days in the fridge, it was still good, but now tasted dead. What previously tasted great was now I could feel this is dead. This has no energy to it. It has nutritional value, but no energy. So if you're the cook, start cooking really fresh stuff, fresh everything, because the body will do what it does when it's in an optimal position to do so, to heal itself. Second point, there will be technologies, medbeds I don't know about like anybody else, but there will be approaches to what we need to do to heal us. So I don't like telling anybody they have a death sentence, because I've been around long enough, I've seen enough miracles which were physically impossible happen. So to say, oh, I'm sorry, you had no chance, go in the corner and die, never. Friend of mine, Paul, I won't give his full name, Paul M. He was the chief executive of a defense industry company. So this guy's a hard-nosed businessman, defense industry, right? He was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, cancer of the esophagus. There's never a treatment for that. And he went to the doctor. The doctor said, sorry, there's nothing we can do. When that goes, you're done. So get your affairs in order. Now, Paul, being a smart guy online, country with the lowest incidence of esophageal cancer, Mexico. What do they eat in Mexico? Chilies. I love chilies. Away he went. 3 months later, went back to the doctor for a checkup. Doctor said, impossible. Paul said, why? Your cancer's gone. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth about your health and what will heal you has been concealed from you. There isn't a thing that exists that cannot be healed. Okay, so hope is incredibly important. There will be treatments that we don't know about yet that will become available, and we will not. My hope, we won't see millions dead. We might not. Everyone's going to make it. I get that, but nobody has a death sentence yet, because given our current level of experience and knowledge, yeah, there's no hope. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that's been concealed from us for thousands. I'm choosing my words carefully. Thousands of years. This is an ancient battle. Okay.
Thank you, Ricardo. Just following on from your statement about food and how important that is for our health, a bill that was either being passed or about to be passed in New South Wales is the injection of livestock by the mRNA. Will that go ahead? Will that be rolled out to other states? How do we stop that?
Once again, it's what the Black Hats intended. It's what the Black Hats will try to do. The White Hats might cut in and prevent it like they did with the WHO Constitution. Remember the World Health Organization Constitution, which was supposed to supersede our Constitution, rather. That was always their plan. It was going to happen. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, 27 African nations said no. I don't know if you know anything about African politics, but here's how it works. There's a bag of gold. Thankfully, the right guys were handing over the gold. And so it didn't go ahead. So it was stopped, but it was certainly intended. Now, will this one go ahead? I don't know. If I find out, I'll let you know. I must admit, I'm being very careful about which meat I buy now. And I might go vegetarian for a while, even vegan, you never know. But yes, it was their plan. Yes, it might go ahead. If you want to assist, stand up. Okay? Go see Darren, go see Craig, join whatever group, and start standing up to give the guys that are fighting on our behalf, then let them know that we're with them. Okay? Just be careful. But I'll certainly let you know if I find anything out.
Another question down this aisle, folks, or over that side? Look out. Sort of need a siren while I'm moving, don't I?
Thank you. Hi, Ricardo. Thank you. I love what you do. Blessings to you and your family. Talking about nutrition and natural therapies and vitamins, we're all obviously taking lots of vitamins, and we're probably taking more than we would normally take. My question is, what about the tampering with the vitamins now? We're hearing and seeing, what they're doing to them. So
there are some vitamins.
Which is the best one to take, or
the best one, the best vitamin C you want? It comes in this sphere. It's got an orange outside.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is this, folks. Do you know that oranges have 500 essential ingredients to them? 500. We get it for the vitamin C. Terrific. There are 500 others. Every fruit and veg. You want calcium, ladies, so you don't get weak bones? Celery.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's the calcium that can be absorbed by the body. So your prepared pharmaceuticals or your prepared vitamins, some might be okay.
Yeah.
There's some excellent books out there where you can find the natural remedies, the natural sources of vitamins and minerals. Go for the fruit and veg. You want to avoid sickness, the fruit and veg shop, become their best friend. You'll literally be amazed at which fruit and veg will cure which illness in you.
But again, with that, they're spraying that much fruit and vegetables anyway. We're
Yeah.
obviously all growing a lot of our own veggies and that at home.
Yep.
I guess it's just finding the ones that aren't sprayed, I guess, the organic, but can you trust the organic?
And that's why one of A1's policies is we're going to push an idea that was shown to me by my excellent friend Jackie at the back there. And if you want, who he reckons they're really courageous, they can really go beyond the pale. They can go further and farther than anybody else. Just show hands. I'm really curious. Well, you'll survive. The rest of you are going to die. I'm joking. There's a series of books called Anastasia. In English, we'd say Anastasia, but it's pronounced in Russian Anastasia. Yeah, well, look at this. We've got some people already thumbs up. The Ringing Cedars of Russia. It's a series of 8 books. Yep, somebody down the back got it as well. There you go. It will blow your mind. Now, this is for the international audience because I think probably everybody in Australia is going to read that book is currently in this room. The rest will go, oh. But when you think about it, what we have learned in the last 3, 4, 5 years has already shattered us, correct?
Yeah.
What we thought was the truth, what we thought was history, is gone. Strong recommendation. I could not give you a stronger one right now. Get the books. I don't know how much they cost. There's a series of 8, and the 8th book is 8A, 8B. Roughly, Jackie, what do they cost? Oh. Okay, if $247 is too much, muck in with a whole bunch of you. Get 10 of you. That's $24 each. You can just share the books. I promise you, you'll rip through it and go, this is insane. No, it's not. This really works. No, that's just nuts. Hang on a minute. I had that experience once. This is shifting to the next level. Now, let me make this point really important. This is very important, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just this boneheaded former Special Forces colonel, right? Right. You know that end state I was talking about? Amoral, sovereign, self-reliant, Christian, Western democracy, blah, blah, blah. That is stage 1. Stage 2 is a completely new earth. Does that make sense? I have to be this ogre over here so we can create this paradise over here. Make sense? Any of you get confused? Sometimes I'm just a complete idiot. Why did he say that? Why did he say it that way? And the next minute, my God, he's so eloquent. Because I'm talking to a group. Yeah, good on you. Thank you for being honest. I'm serious. Oh, I thought you said... I thought you were agreeing that I was an idiot. Okay, insight into how I do things and why. Ladies and gentlemen, who watched Trump when he first started running? Who watched his technique and what he did and how he did it? I did. Because I watched this guy and go, why are you talking like that? You'll say something really clever and smart, and then you'll go, something stinks. I got it, because he didn't want to be libelous. So I went, okay. I'm smart. I listen to other people. I watch how they work. Now, he's appealing. When I speak, ladies and gentlemen, I have such a broad breakup of people to whom I'm speaking. I have straight-backed conservatives with their blue blazer and regimental tie. They still tuck their shirt into their underwear when they get dressed every morning. Like they were taught when they were 18 as recruits. I still do. There's an ugly picture, isn't it? God, you didn't need that. But you got to watch how Trump did stuff. And I went, because I've learned communication skills. I know how to talk to large crowds. I know how to be erudite. I know how to be a monster. Because occasionally we have to become monsters to do what we have to do. But the trick is not to live here. You got to, that's the trick. You got to do what you do and you come back over here, say a few Our Fathers, and get back to work. But that's what I do. I've got to talk. Now, the simple soldier over here that is applying good strategic methods and hard-nosed leadership, and I've got to be this guy. Soon we'll be over here. And you'll be amazed how hey man I am. Not with the not that. But the subjects on which I'm versed and wish to impart on A1 as an organization and therefore on the country to help the country heal itself would blow your mind. If you start reading the anesthesia books, you're going to go, he reads this? But how else do I know about all this stuff? You've got to go where you've never been before. You have to become someone you've never been before. You've got to do things you've never done before. And I promise you, I don't care how old you are. And I've said this, I've spoken to chief executives of corporations. I did one talk, there are 8 men in the room. The combined market capitalization of those 8 men would have been easily $1 billion. And I said to them what I'm going to say to you right now. I don't care how old you are, how tired you are, how gorgeous you are. You're going to make a deal by Jesus wept. God, that's terrible. No, hang on. My wife did this on purpose. She wants to remind everybody she's really in charge. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how tired you are. I don't care how many ailments you have. You wake up in the morning, your feet are just sore. None of you in this room are at the beginning of what you can do with the rest of your life. Just absorb that for a minute. Nobody knows how much time we have left. Me, I've got 40 years ahead of me. But if I don't, I'm going to die with my boots on and I'm going to keep pushing forward and doing stuff. I never saw myself doing this. Do you think I wanted this job? I had a lovely job consulting, making $1 million a minute, flying to Rome for pizza, going to Athens for souvlaki, and now I'm trying to save 15 cents on a tin of baked beans. But that's okay. We all have to become something more. When you look in that mirror, you should look in the mirror and go, "Whoa, I'm impressed with what you did yesterday. Let's see if we can do better today." Okay? Start small. Start small. Take bigger steps. There's this Wolfgang Goethe, German administrator, writer, philosopher, amongst other things. He spoke about this invisible line. And when I do my leadership talks, and I'll be doing leadership talks for all the A1 people around the country, okay? Instead of paying thousands of dollars, you pay $25 entrance just to pay the cost of the hall. But there's this invisible line. And on this invisible line, that's the line that says, I can't do that. And on this side of the line, there's 1 million people. And the moment you cross that line, the whole world opens up. And you'll know it when you've done it, because you look back and go, "Come on!" And nobody follows. There's this invisible line. When you cross this invisible line, ladies and gentlemen, you will become what you were intended to be. Every one of you has a purpose, a profoundly important purpose. None of you are irrelevant, not one of you. Despite what you might have been told as a kid and all the challenges you faced, the mother and father that beat you, somebody else, whatever happened to you, whatever made you feel small, that's not you. Every one of you has a profoundly important purpose. Mark Twain said, the great American writer, his real name was Samuel Langhorne. I like Mark Twain better. The two most important days in your life, the day you were born and the day you find out why. When you hear that moment, you find your why. All of a sudden, you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Nothing can stop you. How many of you met Sarah Yule, our national operations? 4'8", 48 kilos. She's like a tiny pocket rocket. She's a monster, an absolute monster. 2 young kids. She works 20 hours a day. She's amazing. But her why is what keeps her going. It's about the kids, about the kids, about the kids, about the kids. And she's just this ferocious beast. I don't take her on. I'm scared of 2 women in my life. My wife, Rhiannon, and Sarah. They are ferocious. It's got nothing to do with size. It's got nothing to do with intellect. It's got nothing to do with looks. If you want it, it's yours. Just cross that invisible line and start. And I promise you, you'll be over here going, "Come on, come on." Oh, bug you. Away you go. Next question.
Oh, hi, Rick. I'm Aaron. I work in the technology sector. I used to do a bit of work for some radar companies in the defence and the Bureau of Meteorology. I've been watching those radars a bit lately. It seems that a lot of the weather patterns here are being directly run by these Bureau of Meteorology. Is this a HARP thing, or is our government in control of this? Is this staged in a sense? Do you know anything about that?
Okay, you know what HARP is? High altitude screwing with your lives. Right. Okay, the answer is yes and no. And I'm not being silly. The black hats are still trying to wipe out what they're trying to execute what they're trying to work out. There's a weather battle going on. The good guys are having a counter battle, quite literally. The floods are the bad guys, not the good guys. The good guys are trying to stop what's going on. The bad guys are just pushing ahead. So that's the short answer to your question. They are fighting on every level. As you can imagine, think of any category of challenge that we're facing, whether it's the floods, whether it's the distribution of food, the logistics supply chain, the supply of fuel, whatever. Every aspect has a role in this war, and that's why it is such a complex and difficult war to fight, because they have to fight at every level to make sure they get everybody. That's why it's taken time. But yeah, the short answer is it's good guys and bad guys. They are fighting. The bad things are the bad guys, and when the bad things aren't so bad, it's because the good guys are having a bit of a win there. Who's next? Yes, sir.
G'day, Rick. Thanks. My name's Darren as well. Just want to say thank you for what you're doing. Thanks to Carl and also the trendsetters. Heart's going a bit fast, but
that's a good thing. Stop right there. Is your heart pumping fast because you're a bit embarrassed to be in front of a mic?
Yeah. Yes.
Great. I've been there. It might surprise you all, folks. I wasn't born 6'3.5" 220 pounds of Special Forces colonel. I used to poo my pants as a baby. But eventually I grew out of that. So that's good. So 10 out of 10. Thanks, mate. I love it, the fact you're doing it.
I appreciate it. Thank you. My question goes in terms of what's going on in WA with McGowan, and whether that's, I mean, if it does actually reach out to all the other states. In terms of the authorities not having authority, how does one, I suppose, approach not allowing them into someone's homes to take whatever they want?
Yeah.
Especially the kids.
That's personal choice. I am outfitted uniquely to handle it one way. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that to my grandmother. Everyone has to handle it themselves and prepare for it. So whether they want to confront them and hold up Article 61 of Magna Carta, or whether they want to do something else, it's up to them. I'm not backing off. It's literally, what can you do? It depends. It really depends. They have to think about it. If what's best for them is to go to a friend's country property and stay there for a couple of weeks till things die down, maybe that's an option too. It was like when I was charged and went to the confronted a magistrate for not wearing a mask. What did I do? I made a statement of sovereignty and said, short version, go to hell. And they sent me a bill, and I didn't pay it. They sent me another bill with additional charges, and I didn't pay that. Then they stopped sending bills until I went public again. They sent me another bill, because what they were going to do is they're cowards, right? And so, he'll be quiet, and then we don't get embarrassed because he hasn't done it. But I'm going to keep saying it, because I don't back away from a fight. They love argy-bargy. They like to push because most people don't want to fight. And fighting's not a good thing. Don't get me wrong. I agree. It's not a good thing. But I don't back up. I don't like paying for the same real estate twice. So if they want to take me on, come at me. As I said to the coppers when they said to me at the airport, you have to wear this, otherwise we'll lock you up. I said, that's all right, Phyllis, where you go? And I was literally dressed like this, and I was as jovial as I am now. I said, I understand you've got a job to do, lock me up. And they looked at me and went, oh, shit. And the senior sergeant went his big boy pants and ran away and got instructions, came back, gave me $1,000 bill and sent me on my way. But I can get away with that, so I can't say to everybody, do what I do. Make up your own mind, assess your own circumstances, assess your own strengths and weaknesses. And as I said, if the prudent course of action is to go with a relative in the country town and just stay there for a couple of weeks, then that might be the best way to go too.
Get off Facebook. If you are going to go and stay with someone, don't sign in on Facebook and tell them where you are. That would be my advice. Another one down the front here. And then
we've got one over here, Carl, as well.
Hey, Ricardo. Thanks for coming down here, and thanks everyone who's.
Oh, that's all right. We had nothing else to do.
Like everyone. Just a quick question. This has been nagging away at me for quite some time. My dad was in hospital early this year, and it was a huge eye opener. He had a heart surgery. What they're doing with people is just unimaginable. I walked in to my dad being tied to the bed, but that's some of the things that they do to other patients as well. There seems to be something in the water as well, because in that whole entire ward, maybe 2 or 3 patients out of the whole entire ward were okay. The rest were delirious. So they're obviously feeding them something. My question is, what can we do? Because I mean, like, obviously I had, my family to get my dad out, and that was a battle in itself. What can we do for those that don't have a family? Because it's just eating away at me and eating away at me.
Yeah, I understand it. On your first point, what do you do? And again, check your own circumstances out. If I had a relative in that situation, I would be getting them out of the hospital and doing the best I could. We've got a rule in our family: if anybody gets seriously hurt and needs to go to hospital, we ain't going. So I've been revising my first aid, how to set a broken limb, and all the rest of it. And I mean it, we're not going. Not in a million years. For those who are alone, and this is where banding together helps. Okay, this is why go to Darren's My Place, come to A1, join a group. When you're working with people, you can do more. Okay, we got Bendigo, the meals. What's her name? Sorry, Sam Hamilton, absolute legend. She is brilliant, and she, like you, feels for those who just have nobody. And there are 40 odd families living on the street, And so she'll send me a picture of the 60 meals that we prepared today. I love being a Christian because there are so many expressions that just sum up exactly what it means. Whatever you do to these, the least of my brethren, you're doing to me. Just help one person. It's good for them, it's good for you. Okay? If you can't get them out, look after them where they are. Does that make sense? Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who pray, pray. Those of you who don't, better pray than the ones that do pray right. I'm not being facetious. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Hello all. I have a question for Darren, for starters, regarding the My Place and council. Do I need a My Place to start a council? Because I have a place, but it's not as big as yours.
I think the ideal way to get a council up and running is to have a My Place first, because you need to work with these people for a few months to work out who is the right person to start the council. The ones that are starting councils straight off the bat are struggling a little bit, from what I can gather, because there's a lot of time needed, and you need to have the right people. We don't need people in there that just want the title and the ego. We need genuine people, and you only really find out how genuine they are once you've been working with them for a few months, and you know who the right people are.
So if I don't have the land mass, I can't really do it.
Yeah, you can. There's plenty of ways. In the Melton group I explained to not long ago, they've got nearly 500 members. They've just started and turned it into a My Place now, Vic West. And I said, you've got 500 members. It takes $1 a week each. You got $3,000 a month. You can go and lease a factory, 3,000-foot factory, put the power on for less than that, and get yourself a venue. So first of all, form the groups, and then once you've got the groups, work out a way where you can get a venue.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sorry, Rick.
Oh, sorry. Another one for Ricardo. I heard recently CBA are going to start with this carbon credit stuff. Is it a good time for everyone to jump out of the bank and just pay things for cash at the post office?
Oh, it's always good to jump out of a bank. See, that's their lifeblood. We got thrown out of which bank? ING and Defence Credit Union. And fine, we went to another bank. But yeah, that's it. If you can hit them where it hurts, which is their cash, absolutely. Better still, mobilize a whole bunch of people to do the same thing. Now, not everybody's going to come because they'll have loans and connections, and I get that. Don't try to get everybody. Just get enough. And if one person is enough, or you're the only one, that's enough. That's a good start. But yeah, I'd be getting straight out and say, I think your carbon credit stinks. I think you're either stupid or corrupt, one of the two. But either way, you're not having my money. Banks need people to borrow. That's where they get their power from. Fractional reserve banking. Right? You all know what fractional reserve banking is? That's where they create money out of thin air because they loan money. Because they're only required to have 10 cents for every dollar that they loan out. So they need you to keep borrowing. The moment you end a loan, they hate you because then that money is gone. It's fake money. So yeah, pull your money out and don't borrow from them. And I mean it. Don't borrow. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ricardo, for what you do. This is an observation, actually, that these very streets, and the fact that you're at the Amora Hotel today, were the streets that the freedom fighters of Melbourne were out and being run down and chased like animals through these back streets, through alleyways, and through blocks of units and houses. So thank you to anyone that was attending those on those days, because they were tough days. Secondly, could you share with us where you think the next few months are going?
Share it with us where?
Where you think the next few months are going.
Okay, we're in for a rough time because it's coming to a crunch. When an animal is cornered, that's when they get really vicious. Now, in certain strategies, you always leave an exit so they can escape, so you're done with the problem. They don't have that. That is now shut. And a wounded animal is still a wounded animal, and they will fight, so they're going to get nasty. The good news is they're going to fight amongst themselves. We've already been told that there's a massive schism in the Masonic Filth organisation, and they're now taking each other out, which is nice. We should sell tickets. Again, like last year, but for very different reasons, get through to Christmas. Because now this is not the beginning of the end, this is the end of the end. This war has been fought for 60 years at a subterranean level, both metaphorically and literally. It's only now come to our consciousness in the last few years since Trump, and we're now at the end. So we're talking get through to Christmas, and then Q1 next year, you're going to see some massive change. It still might be tough. You know, we've still got our food stocked up and we're not touching it, although I do sneak in sometimes. And I hate myself when I do. Keep your food stocked up for as long as you can, minimum 6 weeks, a bit longer if you can manage it, right? Get through to Christmas. Not because something's going to happen at Christmas, but that's a point you can get to, okay? Because here's the thing. They know they can't piss people off at Christmas because that'll really get everybody upset. Because if anything interferes with the Boxing Day test, every cricket supporter in the country will turn against them. Unfortunately, but that's the truth. Get through to Christmas, just put that as a line in the sand and get to that. Q1 next year, you're going to start seeing some stuff. Now, pay attention and get energized and enthusiastic when you hear things like the number 2 man in China was frog marched off the podium. This is huge because there's a massive internal war within China, within the CCP. It's not like this is a homogeneous, that's the one. Homogeneous group. They all hate each other. They're all vying for positions. The Masonic lodges, they hate each other with a passion. They really do, because they're all fighting to get up to the next level. They're all destroying each other. So the fact that the number 2 man was whisked off stage is just enormous. This is a big, I was going to say something inappropriate. This is evidence of progress, okay? This is evidence of progress. So when you read the paper and read that, you go, yes, another one bites the dust, and another one, and another one, and another one, okay? That's the best we can do. Just get through it. You will. She'll be right. She'll be right. Take the artillery, stay underground, and when the time comes, we'll go above ground and we'll take them out. Rommel, who was pounding Tobruk, where the rats of Tobruk were created, the Germans called the Australians and New Zealanders the rats of Tobruk as an insult because they were underground. And they took it as a badge of honor. And that's where that little rat patch on the side came from. The rats of Tobruk. Rommel later said of the New Zealanders and the Australians, because of the way they they withstood this incessant attack on bombardment, he said, if I had to take hell, I'd use the New Zealanders. If I wanted to keep it, I'd take the Australians. That's the respect he had for us and our capacity. That's our inheritance, folks. Now, too few Australians actually know that. But we had a magical reputation as tough fighters. The Crocodile Dundees. That's not a knife. So we can do that again. Okay, that's in you. Whether you know it or not, that's your history. We are doing it. We're taking the hits. We're taking the hits. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry, no, over here.
Or you could say that Australian and New Zealanders were actually the only one who properly fought in World War II compared to British, let's say. You're right, yes.
There you go.
But my question was more about that election advice. If I put number 1, for example, therein, and then I will write no other suitable candidate, what will happen to my vote?
Your vote's informal and won't be counted. Again, that's the system. You must fill in the boxes. Yep.
Because I mean that I would rather see even One Nation Party in that seat rather than Green, than Liberal, than Labour. I would rather see UAP if it cannot be Australian one, but someone else, but not those 3. That's
yeah,
what
look,
I
in
mean.
one election I actually wrote, and I'm not recommending this because this would be advocating a crime against the Electoral Act. I actually wrote in big letters, "We do matter." I didn't tick anything. Come and get me, Tom, you big wuss. No, you've got to fill in the rules if you want it to count. And as I said, make it hard. Make it hard for them to cheat.
We're going to wrap it up, folks, with one last question. There was a lady down here.
Hi, I'm Antonietta. So my question, my question is, seeing that they've already tried.
Microphone.
Hello.
Closer.
Yep.
There you go.
Does that work?
Bit closer.
Bit closer.
There you go.
That's right on my lips. Okay.
Must have a quiet voice.
I must have. Okay. So I'm just thinking that with the system that they have in China that they've done to their population, which is quite large, the Chinese population, when you look at how many of those people have fallen into allowing that to happen, how can you foresee people in Australia or any other state being able to find the way to get out of that when they have already got this picture or this group that haven't been able to? They haven't had and yet the Chinese have a great deal of mind control and all sorts of things. So that's my question.
No, it's a great question. Nobody's going to like the answer, I can tell you. Let me preface it this way. When I was talking to John Wilson, who remembers John Wilson, that hard-nosed ex-communist unionist that we did interviews with, absolute champion of a bloke. You remember the advice one of his mentors gave him when he was a young communist? Never wake up the Christians. Let them sit quietly in the corner. And John said, why? He said, because they don't care. Meaning their hero, their model, the perfect life was this carpenter that said, no, I'm not going to compromise. You're going to have to kill me. And they did. Right? That's at the heart of Christianity. So China will never reform itself until one of them gets on a tree and gets nailed to a cross for doing the right thing and saying the right thing and saying, kill me, I don't care. Because everyone is fearful and they will hold on to their life and they'll do whatever they need to. Every other religion says, kill in the name of your God. What does Christ say? I'm not talking the Catholic Church or organized religion, please. I'm not talking about that. He said, tell the truth even leads to your death. When you have that mindset, what do you think keeps me going? Why am I so arrogantly pugnacious in the face of insuperable odds? Now, that's a big word, isn't it? See, I'm not a complete dolt. But what do you think keeps me going? That's my model. That's the guy I have to follow. That's the exemplar. And I go, whenever I complain, and it's funny, I complain a lot. I really do at home. Oh, for fuck's sake. And then I stop and go, I wonder how Christ felt when he was going through his... Oh, okay, I'll shut up now. Nothing like what he went through. Have you seen that picture of Mel Gibson when he's making the film The Passion of the Christ and he's sitting next to John Caviezel, who's in full makeup, right? And there's an excellent photograph. If you haven't seen it, look it up. And there's Mel Gibson. He's explaining something that, as a director to the actor John Caviezel, who's playing Christ. He's got the crown of thorns. He's a mess. And Caviezel's just sitting there listening like this, and Mel Gibson's sort of quite passionate. And the line underneath reads, me explaining to Christ how tough my life is. That's a long way of saying, you want to save this country? That's your example. Here's our example. This is not a Muslim country. It's not a Hindu country. It's not an atheistic country. Over 50% identify as Christians. Over 70% believe in a supreme intelligence, a powerful intelligence outside of space, time, energy, and matter, which is a definition of a supreme and ultimate being, right? He's ours. We got it. What will save this country? You want to know? Christianity. Anything.
Amen to that.
You can have everything else, even these guys, right? But at the center of every culture are their spiritual beliefs. We have Christianity at the center of ours. And again, I'm not talking religion, I'm talking about Christ and his life. With that, we win. Without that, we could have everything else and we lose. That is a short, unpalatable answer to everybody that doesn't want to hear it. Don't give a shit. That's the truth. And that's why China is what it is. It is 1 billion drones. Okay? That's why. The Middle Kingdom, the greatest civilization, 5,000 years in the making. But they never had anybody that got nailed to a tree. We did. We win. Okay? That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, just like to thank you. I'll come over, a camera can actually see me. I'd just like to thank you for your attendance today. Rick has obviously got a bit more to say, and I would highly recommend tuning in for Canberra in a couple of nights' time, where part 2 of this will be presented to you. Thank you, Rick, for inviting me along to MC your event and run around with the microphone. I really appreciate that. And I'd like to thank, if I could, Cherie and Gary. Who likes my suit? So today I am dressed by Cherie and Gary. That's my Cherie from VOFHQ.com. I took a suit to her because Rick said, you will wear a suit, won't you, Carl? And I did. I went down to the Salvos and bought one. But the pants were a bit big, believe it or not. And when Cherie, because Cherie's a seamstress, I said, can you take those pants in? She said, oh, yeah. And eventually she came back 2 days later and said, look, here's some money, go and buy a suit, because if I take these in, your front pockets are going to be around the back and your zipper's going to be somewhere very uncomfortable. So thank you to Cherie and Gary for the suit, and to the people from South Morang for the tie, the shirt and the shoes. I am today blessed to be dressed by the people.
There you go.
So thank you everybody who's helped me along the way and made me at least look semi-good when I stand beside the guy in the three-piece. Yeah, okay, bit short and a bit fat, but there you go. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attendance today. This will be available at least for a short while online. We'll have to see what happens. But our next session will start this evening at 7 o'clock. So there will be a second session. I advise you go home, tune in. You never know, he might say something different.
The chances are excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, mate. Good job. Well done.
Thank you.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!